Evening, everybody. I think that's everybody joined us. So it's lovely to see everybody, and thank you for giving up your time this evening to come along and hear about the next phase of the framework. We're really excited to be here and really do appreciate giving up your time this evening. So hopefully you'll find it worthwhile and that you'll learn something that you didn't know already. I'm Audrey Donnan. I'm the Chief Inspector for ELC with the K Inspectorate, and I'm joined today by Carol Hopstick from Education Scotland. Carol, would you like to introduce yourself?
Good evening, everybody, and yes, thank you very much for giving up your time. I'm Carol Copstick. I'm the Head of Inspection for Early Learning and Childcare, and work very closely with the K Inspectorate to bring you the quality improvement framework for early learning and childcare sectors. I think it's really important before we start this evening, getting your views, is to go through a few things about the framework to remind you, maybe the first time you've heard it. But we are all delighted that the framework was published on the 14th of January. It was a very long road, but we got there in the end. We went out to consultation in December 2023, and from that we very clearly got your views, and it was areas about reducing duplication, sector-specific content, and we're absolutely delighted that of the top things you asked us for, we have been able to deliver. For example, we have reduced the duplication of content massively, and we've streamlined the number of quality indicators from 28 down to 11. We've provided sector-specific content for childminder, school-aged children and early learning and childcare, and we've clarified which QIs are for which organisation. In saying that, though, we're looking at this as a holistic framework so that we have massively reduced the burden for settings, in that we, glad to see him speaking English. Wee signs just come up saying that we've changed the language. That we are looking at this very holistically, so that the four key areas that we have, as you know, are leadership, children play and learn, children are supported to achieve, and children thrive and develop in quality spaces. Now, what we're asking you to do is self-evaluate against those four areas, so that it doesn't matter if it's a care inspectorate, if it's a shared inspection, or if Education Scotland come to inspect, that we will look at your self-evaluation, the overarching one, and the inspectors will pick out the information that they need, therefore massively reducing the burden on settings. We've also made the framework interactive, which was one of the areas that we were looking to do, and also we've added in challenge questions, and that was one of the main things that you asked for. And also we've got links to the national resources, which is absolutely great. We are still following these engagement sessions, making changes to the framework, and one of the things that we were asked for was an overarching map showing how everything links together, and Kelly will be showing you that map later on this evening, and that will be added to the frequently asked questions. Some people ask us why we don't have numbers like we had before in previous frameworks, but that's for two very good reasons. One is accessibility, that because it's a digital tool, interactive, it's not good for accessibility, but also to reinforce the areas that we're talking about. We want you to talk about leadership rather than QI 1.3. Also, there seems to be some confusion that I'd just like to clear up, that this is the one and only framework that you will be using. How good is our early learning childcare will be sunset in the summer. The Care Inspectorate frameworks will be sunset in the summer, and from September 2005, this is what you will be inspected against. So we've had some people being quite confused about that, but from September, this is the framework you will use. Kelly will talk about the pilots that have been ongoing, and they are being the visits that we're using the new quality improvement framework, but inspections between now and June we'll be using the old ones, and then we will be introducing this in September. I think that's everything covered. I'm now going to pass you over to Kelly, but introduce two of the colleagues from Education Scotland. We have Joanna and Karen here who are representing Education Scotland as well. And Kelly, you take it away.
Hello, good evening everybody. Thanks everyone for joining us tonight. Hopefully you're all able to see the slides, and I've adjusted them slightly there so that you can now see a QR code. The reason that we have those is because there is sitting at around almost 400 of you with us tonight, which makes a conversation a little bit challenging, but we do want to hear your views and your thoughts on a couple of different things that we will explore across the session tonight. So if you can use the QR code, you will get access to our AHA slides. That will allow you to give us some feedback and some of your thoughts, but actually it will also give you the slides. So you'll be able to see all the slides and you'll have them as well. And we are popping into the Q&A feature of the Teams chat a link to these as well, just in case you're on your phone and you're not able to get a photograph of the QR code. Okay, so this is just a slide that helps people to see where they will see where the Q&A is for tonight. Karen, were we able to get the link into the Q&A?
The chat is turned off for this meeting just now, so I think you have to open it back up again to allow it just for me to go in.
Right, okay. I was thinking that I couldn't see it at the top.
Yeah.
So apologies. We will try to get that link in for you so that you can access it through the link, but you can access the slides through the QR code, which will be on the side of each slide anyway. Okay, so what we're wanting to cover tonight is obviously we've had our welcomes, give you a little bit of a progress update, and when we talk about the progress, what we'll be sharing is a little bit of information about the pilots, because that's very much the phase that we're in just now, is the kind of listening and learning phase while we test the framework. We're going to get an opportunity to have a closer look at the framework tonight, and at this session really have a focus in on some of the content. And we want to hear some of your views on our methodology, and we will obviously create some time at the end where we can hear some of your questions, and just insights and thoughts as well are absolutely welcome. And before we let everybody disappear for their evening, we'll be asking you for a wee bit of feedback about the session and about what you think you need next and going forward. Okay. So, and I love this. This was the same as this morning's session. People are getting ahead for us, which is really helpful. This slide is just so that we can get a sense of who are we on the call with tonight, what roles do you play, and it's also a wee bit of a test for us to make sure that the technology is working. And with the word cloud bouncing away there, I can see that the technology is working for us, and it's great to see we've got evidently quite a few childminders with us tonight, because that's coming in really strong and bold, and that's fantastic. But we've also got some practitioners and managers, so that's just really great to see that there's a mixture of different people that play various different roles within the sector, so that is fantastic. Great. Okay. So while everybody's letting us know who's here, I'll share a bit of an update about the pilot. So we have been piloting, testing the framework out on visits and inspections with different settings across the country since the beginning of February. We've been visiting various different settings. We've been to childminders, school-age childcare settings, daycare settings. We've been to private settings, voluntary, local authority, to test out the framework's quality indicators. And as I say, very much listening to what people are telling us about them and learning about what it means for us on inspection as well. So we had a great response after the November sessions. Some of you may have joined us for them, of people willing to lead the way and step into the unknown and test out the framework with us. And we've been testing that in over 70 settings. We've been testing it both in shared inspections, and we've been doing it as single inspectorates as well. And we've been listening to people during the inspections, and we're very much going to be gathering the feedback from all of those that have participated. So we'll be getting feedback formally from the settings that have been involved, but also the inspectors too, about what's working and what we could focus on to refine things to make them even better as we move on. Okay. So across the session, what we're going to do is we're going to explore lots of different aspects of the framework and some of the work that we're doing. And periodically we'll stop and we'll ask you to tell us a little bit of information as well. And what we're doing at this point is we're asking you to just let us know, have you had a chance to explore the framework? And the reason we're asking that is the engagement that we have with you, and we'll share some of the changes that we've already made from the engagements in February and the things that we've developed, since November. But this just tells us where people are at and helps us inform what next steps we take. So I can see that quite a few people on the call tonight haven't had that chance to explore the framework, and that's okay. We know that people are really busy, and this is the stages that we're moving towards with the implementation of the framework, but some of you have been able to get in there and explore it. And after tonight's session, the people that have said no, you'll be able to say yes, because we're going to do a bit of a dive into a quality indicator. The next question is for those who have had a chance to explore the framework. So we're curious about, how have you been exploring the framework? Have you just had that opportunity to go in and have a look at it as an individual, beginning to familiarise yourself with it and explore it? Or have you been able to talk about it with a colleague or another childminder in the community, or even as a team? And straight away we're seeing that some of you, it has just been that individual look at it, but for some of you, we are starting to explore that with each other, and that's great. That tells us that some people are moving in to those next stages. Thank you very much, everyone.
Kelly, can I just jump in here and just say that I've switched on the Q&A now? So Karen, can you post the link in the Q&A, not the chat function, but in the Q&A? Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Audrey. Okay, and some of you will have already seen the question that's here is about, so for those of you that have been into the framework, what's your early sense? Are you finding it easy to navigate? And actually what we're seeing there is quite a few of you strongly agree it is easy to navigate. Some of you aren't as sure and aren't thinking it's as easy to navigate. And what we've heard from people is that it is about familiarising yourself. It's something new to spend a bit of time with, and it can feel a bit uncomfortable in the beginning. But as I've said, we are going to explore some of it tonight, so hopefully people's confidence increases as we break it down and make it more manageable. Okay, thank you very much, everyone.
Sorry, Kelly, I'm just going to interrupt you again. Lorraine, I see you've got your hand up if you've got a question that you were wanting to ask. We don't have the hands up or the chat function open at the moment. Could you maybe put your question into the Q&A for us, and we can hopefully help you out that way? Thank you. Sorry, Kelly.
That's all right. So what we have on the slide just now is a breakdown of the framework structure. So what people were telling us was actually it would be good if it was clear what the content of the framework is. So there's lots of information in the framework that talks generally about inspections, and we've got the grading criteria in there, but people were saying, what are the domains of quality? What is included in the framework? And as Carol said, we aren't able to number the framework, and I know that that's what people had been saying that they would value as well. And there's lots of reasons for that: accessibility and searchability as well for the framework, because if you are on Google or any other search engine, of which there are many, you can put in things like quality improvement framework for the early learning childcare sectors, safeguarding and child protection, and what will come up is the actual QI. If we start to number it, it has a significant impact on the searchability of the quality indicators of the framework. So we aren't going to number it, but there's nothing to stop you at the local level adding numbers to it if it helps you to organise it. But what you'll see here is us breaking the framework up into a visible structure so that you can see quite clearly what's in the framework. A couple of key things that I would draw your attention to would be some of the language changes with the new framework. So for example, the current framework used by the Care Inspectorate talks about key questions. And we, in the new framework, will be referring to headings. And these languages are changing as the two organisations come together to reduce some of the burden on the sector and some of the complications that can exist as well. So we're sharing that language. So we're referring to it as headings. And the headings under early learning and childcare are leadership, children thrive and develop in quality spaces, children play and learn, and children are supported to achieve. Those headings are the same in almost all of the sections of the framework. There's a slight change in school-age childcare, and I'll show you that in a second. And then underneath that, you can see the quality indicators that sit within those headings and would make up that section of the framework. We have structured this similarly for childminding and also for school-age childcare. And you'll see straight away that there are some differences. And that's because there are some differences between the different sector types. So for example, compared with a daycare setting, an early learning and childcare daycare, a childminder is not going to have the same number of children and isn't going to have a staff team. So therefore, the self-evaluation is going to be different in a childminding setting. But we have made sure that the content within that would still support childminders to strive for a quality service. And again, for school-age childcare, slight differences in terms of the quality indicators and how the framework is made up for that section. And what I would say is most of there are more similarities across the different sector types, but we really have worked hard to try and capture the differences as well, because there are differences. We're all providing care and supporting children to achieve the best that they can, but we do that in different ways and we're working with different groups of children. So there are nuanced differences that we've really worked to try and capture within the framework. And that takes us on nicely to the section of tonight's session, where we're going to do a little bit of an exploration of the framework itself. So in November, and this is when I just hope everything technically works for me. Are we seeing the framework now? Yeah, brilliant. Okay, good. So in November, we were able to show you a demonstration of the framework, and we're going to show you a live demonstration tonight. Not going to focus as much on some of the areas that we covered in November. We really want to spend most of our time in a quality indicator and really exploring what makes up the quality indicators and what you can expect to see in them. But just in case there's anybody on the call that wasn't here in November, the front page, there's a landing page for the framework. And in the landing page, there's some general information that the headings that I've referred to that in the tables and the quality indicators within them. So this is just it being the similar information illustrated in a different way. And then if you scroll down to the bottom, there is the opportunity to do a deeper dive in some other aspects, again, of the general information that we think would support people as they begin to consider using this as their self-evaluation tool, and to support people preparing for inspections as well. I won't go into detail with them because what we want to do is get right in and look at a quality indicator. But at the very bottom, what you will see is we have 3 tiles, and that's 3 tiles to represent the 3 sector types. And we're going to start off in early learning and childcare. When you go into the early learning and childcare, you are on a landing page for early learning and childcare, and it will illustrate for you what you can expect to see across this section of the framework. So again, we have the headings and the quality indicators that make up early learning and childcare. and you're able to go into any of the quality indicators that you want to, depending on what you're looking at. And then down the right-hand side, this is just another way to access the quality indicators. So if you wanted to go to play and learning, you can go in just by clicking that link, and again over here, okay? But tonight we are going to be going into safeguarding and child protection. So I'm going to break down the content and the layout of the quality indicator. And it's worth noting that the style and design of every quality indicator is the same. It's the content and around the theme of that quality indicator that differs in each of them. But once you get used to how the information is laid out, it should become easier to know where to go when you're looking for a particular bit of information. So for example, in early learning and childcare, safeguarding and child protection, we start off with some general information. We heard feedback that it would be really helpful to include in the framework specifically what inspectorate would be inspecting against this particular quality indicator, and we have added that in for everybody. So in every quality indicator, it's really clear which inspectorate would be inspecting against which quality indicator. And in this one, you'll know that it has Care Inspectorate and Education Scotland, and that's because this is a shared quality indicator between both of us, because we both have a responsibility to be reporting on that. We also have themes within each of the quality indicators. And again, this was just to make it manageable. So you have the overarching quality indicator, which is safeguarding and child protection, but there are many, there's themes that make up that quality indicator, and that is arrangements for safeguarding and child protection. So safeguarding, that wider responsibility for making sure children are safe in our care, and we are taking a preventative approach, but also thinking about those formal procedures that we need to undertake when we think children are at risk of harm to make sure that they're protected. Children are safe, secure and protected from harm, and then national guidance and legislation. So those are the themes that would make up this quality indicator. And then we have some general information about the quality indicator. So talking about safeguarding and child protection, ensuring children are safe and protected from harm. Where the themes are expanded on is when we go down to this section here, and you'll note where there are the arrows pointing down the way, that means that you can open that up and there is further information to support you here. And these are the illustrations of quality. So we have an illustration of very good, and we have illustrations for weak, okay? So if we look specifically at the safeguarding and including child protection, the content includes some information that I would imagine you'd expect to see there. So what we're looking for in a setting that is very good is that policies are up to date, and that people understand the policies and procedures that are in place, that there are strong links and communication with partners, but that includes families as well, and in a very good setting, that's what we'd expect to see. And then we explore the professional learning, and not just the professional learning of the team, but the leaders within the setting as well, that they have that advanced level of training to ensure that they've got the skills to support the team, and that people are able to recognise and respond when a child is in need of protection. And then similarly, we have the illustration for weak. And what we talk about in the weak illustration is just that people are not clear about their responsibilities and the policies and procedures that are there in place to guide their practice. That there isn't an emphasis on the partnership between the setting and staff and key partners such as families and other agencies. And again, that there just isn't there isn't an emphasis on the need for training to make sure people are familiar with best practice and know what's expected of them. What's really important to know is these are illustrations. It's not a checklist. So it's examples of what we would expect to see. And it's there to support you to benchmark as a self-evaluation tool, but there will be situations where there is even more done, and as I say, it's not a checklist to work through, it's to support for people to have a think about what we would expect to see in very good or weak settings around this quality indicator. And again, further information there around safe, secure and protected from harm, and we have that for the national guidance and legislation. So I'll not go through those two. I'll leave you the opportunity to go in and explore that yourselves at a later time. I will finish off with the live demonstration, but just exploring the challenge questions. So these are another, this is another tool within the framework to support self-evaluation. So questions that are there to prompt conversation, to prompt professional discussion and get people thinking about where are we in terms of our journey? Are we confident that we have there are answers to these? So for example, is there an appropriate designated person in place for child protection? So thinking about that as a staff team. And again, we need to make this manageable. There's examples of questions. You as a staff team might come up with some of your own questions that you ask yourself and you gather evidence around to inform your own improvement journey. And you might get them from other best practice guidance and document. It's not an exhaustive list. I purposefully draw our attention to the appropriate designated person in place for child protection, because we talked about some of the similarities and differences between ELC and the childminding section of the framework. And you would imagine many aspects of what's written there is actually similar in all three, because the responsibility is the same for childminders, practitioners in school-aged childcare and ELC. But there are some differences. And if for whatever reason you need to use more than one section of the framework, so for example, you might be a setting who cares for children that are school age, that offers a school age childcare provision as well as early learning and childcare, you can go into the different sections using the links at the top here. And we're going to go into the childminding one. And when we do, you'll see that it actually takes you straight into the quality indicator, the similar quality indicator. And just highlight some of those differences. When you look at the challenge questions, you'll note that we don't ask about the designated child protection coordinator for childminders, because often childminders are working by themselves or might have an assistant, but the childminder would be the person to lead that. So the challenge questions are slightly different because the childminder would be looking at this slightly differently. Okay, so hopefully that's been helpful to walk through a quality indicator within the framework. And a reason that we're doing that is because we want this to feel manageable for people. We're hoping that people will come away from the session tonight and go, those of you in particular that haven't had that chance to explore it, actually, I'm going to go in and look at a quality indicator. I don't need to read this cover to cover, but I will start to explore it. And really that's all we're hoping to encourage people to do at this stage, and that it feels manageable to do that. Okay, so, and we've already got started, which is brilliant. Thank you very much, everybody. It would be good to hear what your sense is of the layout of the quality indicator. And already I can see people are saying that it looks accessible. When words are bolded and larger, that means quite a few of you said it's looking good. We've got an excellent in there, which we absolutely love. We always like to hear that. That's real enthusiasm. And someone's put there that it will take time to get used to it. And of course, it absolutely will take a bit of time to get used to it. It's new, it's unfamiliar, but we hope it's been designed in a way that it will soon become easy, and you'll soon become used to where things are and know where to navigate it and go. Seems straightforward. Great. Thank you very much, everyone. So more than happy for everyone to keep putting in their comments, because we are taking away all of these. This is an opportunity for you to let us know things, and we will be analysing it at a later date, although we might not be able to talk about each thing that's shared with us, but that's looking overwhelmingly positive. So thank you very much, everybody, for sharing that. And what we're asking you is if you think from the live walkthrough that that quality indicator would support your self-evaluation. And mainly people are feeling yes, that is going to support self-evaluation. Some people are unsure and undecided. And of course, at this stage, we haven't been able to take, you perhaps haven't been able to test it. So that's where we'd expect people to be. And it's, I say, great to hear that feedback. Thank you, everyone. Okay. So we're going to shift things slightly and have a think about methodology. Okay, so what we're going to ask you to do is to have a think about your inspection experiences, and we're going to ask you to draw on those inspection experiences. We want you to think about the processes and the methodology that was used during an inspection. And being quite purposeful about how I'm saying that there as well is because we know often when we ask about the inspection experience, people want to talk about their individual inspection. And there's a couple of reasons why we can't, on this session tonight, be talking about individual inspection experiences. One is that it's unlikely we would be able to answer any of your questions that you have about a particular inspection because it's unlikely any of us were part of that inspection. And what we would say is use the channels that we have to raise questions about your particular inspections. And the other reason is our time is really, really precious, and we really want to focus on hearing from you about our methodology. What works in the methodology? What has really supported your improvement journey and from your experiences of inspection? And as we move forward and we make changes and we develop things, what would you like to see enhanced or created? So we're going to ask you for a little bit of your thoughts on that. But before we do that, it seems sensible to explore a little bit about what I mean when I talk about inspection methodology. So when we're talking about inspection methodology, we're talking about the tools and approaches that both the Care Inspectorate and Education Scotland use when we're out there to gather evidence, to analyse and to draw conclusions. So the things that we do, and the slide in front of you there breaks down some of that, and everything that's on that slide is done by both organisations. Now we might do them slightly differently, but both organisations do these. So we both have a planning stage where we gather intelligence and information from you, from your staff teams, from your families, ahead of coming out on the inspections, to think about where are we focusing our time when we're out on the inspection. When we're there and doing the inspection, there are things that there is approaches that all inspectors are expected to follow and undertake when they're out, to ensure that there's a consistency of methodology that's used for evidence gathering. And that's things like spending time in a playroom and spending time with staff and children, and really getting that sense of what does it feel like to be a child in this setting. And then we begin to triangulate. We'll gather information to draw our conclusions. So we'll have our observations, then we'll ask to see your self-evaluations, or we might do some audits of records that you hold within the setting so that we can get a thorough overview of your setting. And we have grading criteria, so that and the grading criteria is shared with you so that you know what the different grades are, and there is some narrative for each of them so that there is an understanding about what each grading criteria means. Okay, and then both organisations produce a report to support improvement, but also to offer that assurance about the quality of children's care and children's learning. So that's what we're talking about when we talk about inspection methodology. What we'd like to hear from you now, and that's great, brownie points to those that have got started, is when you think about the methodology, some of what I've just noted there, and what you would like to keep and has just really supported you when you think about it, that we had gem moments when we had that conversation, or when we read that, or when we did this. What was it? What really worked for you? So people are sharing things like support and advice, connection with expertise from experts from other settings. Okay, so making connections with other settings, communication with staff and children and parents, reviewing and discussing the self-evaluation. Good. Shared professional discussion. Okay. And the challenge questions are useful. So again, yep, the framework is part of our methodology. So like, it's great to hear that that's really useful, the challenge questions. Okay. And then I imagine some of you will have got started on the next slide as well. And on it, whilst I'm moving on to the next slides, please note that you are still able to go back and input if you haven't had a chance. So just because I've moved on doesn't mean that you aren't able to put in some of the things that you really value and want to keep. But people are now starting to share with us what they would like to see enhanced and further developed. So to understand unique nature of settings before making our judgments, time, isn't it? Like, make sure that there's time to do that. Yep. Communication with staff, so you want to see that enhanced. And it's similar things, isn't it? So I'm getting that sense, so we're talking about there more support to have shared professional dialogue, and that's what we're saying actually we really value as well. And what I'm taking from this is it's something you'd like to keep, but you'd like to see further developed. More time to discuss pedagogy and our why within the leadership team. Okay. Thank you very much. As I say, I'm not able to go through every one of those, but while we're on the session tonight, but we will be going through them. So even if you haven't had time to finish that slide right now, please do come back to it and let us know your thoughts on anything that we've asked for your input on tonight. Okay, so I'm going to move us on. And this is now an opportunity for you to ask us some questions. So you can raise your hand. Are we able to turn the cameras on and mics on? Are we able to do that? Or are we going through the Q&A?
I think going through the Q&A might be easier so we can catch everybody rather than a flurry of hands. Oh,
yeah, that's probably a good idea, Carol. So if you've got any thoughts, insights or questions, please put them in the Q&A, and what we'll do is we'll start to monitor that now and answer some of them live just now. It's worth noting that we got quite a flurry this morning, and we might have missed one or two, but we do go through these and look at them, and if it's a question that comes up quite regularly, we put them into our frequently asked questions as well, so that people have got a response. Do we have any questions? Just have a look.
I know this person that asked a question earlier on, Kelly, which I have answered in the Q&A, just about childminders using document space to go and thrive, because we've added links, but it's just to say that the links for the best practice guidance is there for you to use. If you think it's going to be helpful for you, to give you some hints and ideas, don't use it if it's not suitable for you. And you're right that for childminders, you don't need to use space to go and thrive. However, you might find it a useful document just to have when you're thinking about your setting.
That's a couple of questions coming into the Q&A now.
But when you've asked about why the key inspectorate grading and HMIE one has not been matched, so we have merged the grading criteria, Gwen. So the grading criteria now is an amalgamation of both HMI and key inspectorate. The only thing that's different is that we are maintaining our adequate term, and Education Scotland are maintaining satisfactory at this point in time, because they mean slightly different things for each body, and that's because we're a regulator and Education Scotland are an inspectorate body. But the actual criteria has now been merged.
The question about how many inspectors could be inspecting a school setting with 48 children, that depends very much on if it's a shared inspection, a single inspection, if we have shadow associate assessors or shadow HMI. From our our side. So there's not an exact answer for that, and I'm very sorry. And obviously going forward, it will depend what the footprint methodology models are. So not a great answer, but a very honest answer. What format would a self-evaluation report looks like? That's part of the methodology, and we will take on board your suggestions and work up a format from there, making the presumption there will be a self-evaluation report. Everything is for discussion at the moment about the methodology.
There's also a question asking if the document digital from September, or will there be a hard copy to print and share with the team? So we're responding to the request that we had a digital framework, so that's what what the document will be. However, as I'm not sure if Kelly covered that or not earlier, but there is a way for you to print either an individual QI or a copy of the document, and so there is a PDF available on the website that you can print. The caveat to that, though, is that we may make changes because it is still in draft at the moment. We're still doing pilots at the moment. And so if you print the document, you might not have the most up-to-date version of it. So we will have version control on the website. So if you decide to print it, please make sure you keep coming back to the website and just check that your printed copy matches with the digital version.
And leading on from that, the question about is the framework that's online likely to be more or less the same? We are engaging through this webinar and other webinars. We don't think it's likely to change much as we've not had much feedback. You can, of course, start self-evaluating using the new framework, but just to remind you, we will be inspecting against the old frameworks up until June.
And there's also a question there, is that what you've just answered, Karen? So much of them reading questions asking about whether we're still using how good is our early learning and childcare.
No, so, different one.
Right, so both our frameworks will go from September. It's just very clear about that this is the framework that will be used by Education Scotland and by us. There's no other frameworks that will be used at that point.
Lee, at present, there are key indicators that will be inspected at any one time. Will this continue, or headings being? We don't know the methodology, but I would be self-evaluating against the 4 headings. Will you be inspecting under a theme or a quality indicator? To be decided. I know that's not helpful, but we are genuinely in listening mode and working on the methodology as soon as these events are completed.
So there's also a question about the very good and weak illustrations. So there are some that are not completed yet, but we're working on those at the moment in the background. So there will be weak illustrations for all of the quality indicators from September.
However, we are not illustrating any other gradings. The very good there is for you to aspire to, and the weak illustrations are there for the Care Inspectorate. And I will let you take over, Audrey or Kelly, from that, so I'm not stepping on your toes.
Sorry, can you repeat that? I was reading the questions again. Sorry.
Can I ask why only very good and weak are available on illustrations on the website? Are there other gradings elsewhere?
No, that's a policy decision from the Care Inspectorate, so we only use very good and weak illustrations. So there's a question here, as a childminder, do I just use the sector-specific content? So yes, is the answer to that. Everything that you need delivering your service as a childminder, you can use a childminding sector-specific content, and that should cover everything, even if you're delivering school-age childcare as well. But you might find it helpful to dip in and out of the other sections as well. That's entirely up to you.
Question there from Mrs. Callahan about if a nursery class in a school are being inspected, will the documentation be to be provided by the school and the nursery be completely different? Because we are reviewing the school's framework as well as this new framework we've got, we are looking at how they dovetail together. So that's all in the future. So we don't know. what will be happening about that. But for EYC, the nursery class, it's looking at whatever the self-evaluation will be for that. And again, that's not been agreed. We are going to be coming out in the summer to talk about what decisions have been made about the methodology. So you'll know well in advance what the methodology will look like before we come into schools inspecting in September.
I'm just going back to that. Oh, sorry, Kelly. I'm just going back to that previous question from the childminder because, sorry, I didn't realise you had more in your question. So where you're saying if you deliver funded ELC, so the expectation is if you're delivering funded ELC as a childminder, you still just need to use the childminding sector-specific content. There is a statement on the framework that states that Education Scotland could inspect childminders, but they're not going to, and that we're happy and content that the content of the childminding sector specific content is suitable for you delivering funded care.
Question here about do we have Gaelic speaking inspectors inspecting in Gaelic medium ELC settings? We have a Gaelic team and Gaelic AAs that we try to deploy in the Gaelic speaking inspections. So as far as yes.
There was somebody just asking, just wanting to double check that we had said that how good is our early learning and childcare would not be used from September. So it's just to confirm that that is the case, that there will be one framework and this is the framework that will be used. We wouldn't be expecting you to use how good is our early learning and childcare beyond September.
The question about the different versions came up this morning. We're looking at some way of being able to highlight version controls to let you know any changes. So we're actively working on that as we speak. Just looking through questions.
Somebody's asked about updates in the future. So if you keep an eye on the frequently asked questions, any kind of further updates or any responses to any of the questions we've had in any sessions will be added to that. So you'll know what's changed, and also we'll have version control on the digital framework as well. So you'll know what's changing and when.
There will be clarity. I'm picking up a few questions here about self-evaluation and will it be part of the school? At the moment, the information we have is that we'll be using the quality framework for ELC for them. But as I said, the schools framework is being updated just now, so we can't predict what will come out of that consultation. But we will try, obviously, as far as we can, to try and get the two dovetailed.
Somebody's asking for the Inspector of Education Scotland sections. Have these just been lifted from old documents or have there been changes and updates within each of the QIs? So the content of each QI, where there's Education Scotland or Pay Inspector, that have been completely reworked, rewritten. There will be familiarity because you're still going to be delivering high quality care with your children. You're still delivering the learning, you're still assessing. All of those things that you do still take place. But the actual QIs themselves have been rewritten and streamlined to remove any duplication. We've tried to use the same language across the framework as well. So hopefully we'll see there have been some changes in there.
Yeah, and we've made it really focused on what's really important to make sure that you have a high quality service. So that's why we've got the 4 key headings there, but it's been rewritten completely, as Audrey says.
Any questions?
And Audrey, I think you touched on this, but somebody, and apologies if this has already been read, somebody there is talking about the reference to school-age childcare for childminders, and it is just underscoring that childminders would only need to go to the childminding section of the report of the framework. Everything in there should be able to support you, and you wouldn't need to go into the school-age childcare.
Yeah. Delighted by the comment. It all looks easier to navigate. We think so. So that's great hearing that reflected back to us. Thank you very much, anonymous user.
Someone's asked.
Oh, sorry, on you go, Kelly.
Someone's asked if the term headings is replacing quality indicators, and no, it's not. It's replacing what would be key questions in the current framework, and we still have quality indicators.
Now, I know you're all dying for a cup of tea and to go and watch Coronation Street or EastEnders or whatever it is on tonight. Might be a Vera actually or a Grace. That's my choice, but please do keep the questions coming. Anonymous, I think that's very good practice for you to look at each QI, or it will now be each theme every year, and keep it updated. I think it's really important that every setting has a really strong self-evaluation, and really good to keep that rolling, which is great.
Somebody's come in as well and put that they're asking about whether we would expect their self-evaluation to have been rewritten for September. And it's just to say that from September, we will be using it in our inspections, but we absolutely understand that there would be a transition period for people, and that we will go in and look at your self-evaluation, however that's structured, and pull what we need to pull from it.
Would out of schools care receive 2 inspectors?
So that very much depends on the size of the setting, what's happening in your setting. So there's no kind of black and white answer to that one. There's a number of reasons why we might have 2 inspectors that will come out. Like I said, it could be that we've had some information we need to follow up on. It could be you're a very large setting. So sometimes you might only have 1 inspector, and sometimes you'll have 2, but we can't see when that will happen.
Lindsay, you're asking about fully written answer for each of the QIs. You would be expected, the answers underneath in the previous person, we would expect you to be doing self-evaluating on a rolling programme, so that you have up-to-date knowledge and understanding of your setting, so that then you can act on that to make improvements.
I'm delighted to read a comment from an anonymous person saying that it appears much easier to use this framework. So absolutely, if you want to start using this framework before September, we'll be delighted with that. So please, if that's what makes you comfortable and you think it will help you and your staff and your setting, then absolutely start using the framework. And I'm delighted that somebody else has said that the new framework is more streamlined and easier to follow. So thank you for that. That's great.
Will the new national standards be updated to reflect the new framework?
Yes, it will. There's work ongoing at the moment with the national standard to make sure it reflects the headings and quality indicators from September. So that will be coming to you all soon.
Any last questions? Oh, yes. Are any of them happening in Gaelic medium ELC settings? Not that I'm aware of. We went out and asked people to nominate themselves, and then we had to look at who had recently been inspected and then take it from the core nominations. There were 54, or there are 54 care inspectorate, 6 shared, and 15 Education Scotland, and I don't have the list in front of me, but we have got a spread across the country. There were 3 local authorities who didn't put their names forward. but I can't off the top of my head say if there is or if there isn't, but it would depend on who put themselves forward.
And can I just pick up again? Somebody's asked if they'll not be using the quality framework for daycare of children, childminding school-aged children that we published in 2022. No, our framework will go. How good is their allowing? Childcare will go. So from September, you will only use this digital framework. Appreciate your comments, saying really appreciate this run through. Definitely feel that this will be easier to use and much more user friendly to use. Thank you for sharing that. That's really helpful to know.
2 eyes for a, if that's a ELC setting, will be 11. We will be coming out to do, again, another question about how often headings should be evaluated. We are going to be running sessions on self-evaluation that we hope will answer all self-evaluation questions, but good practice is to do it in a rolling programme, and I would be touching on every single heading QI every year to keep it updated, because you've got no new cohorts of children. Maybe Joanna or Karen would like to come in on practice that they had in their establishment settings. Would you evaluate every heading every year?
It was a rolling programme. It was part of our quality assurance calendar. It factored in linking to the challenge questions across the QIs. It was something we regularly did with staff.
And it'll vary slightly for different settings as well, depending on your size and the context of your setting and where you are on your improvement journey too. I'm just really conscious of time, everybody.
I think there's two ones. The draft inspection reports, are you meaning the pilot inspection, the pilot visits? They're not being published as in what you would usually expect for Education Scotland. However, Care Inspector are, if that is the question, but I'm not entirely sure that is the question. We have self-evaluation meetings planned for May and an update in, June, and then meetings in August, September on methodology. So there will be more meetings planned, but not at this point in time. We don't have any dates. Sorry, Kelly, you can round off.
No, not at all. Thank you very much, everybody, for the questions. We always think that's a really valuable part of the sessions that we do, because we're able to answer people and clear up any misunderstandings as well. Before you all disappear and get on with your evenings, we'd really appreciate some more feedback from you, and some of you have already started to answer that. So what we're looking for is for you to let us know, are these sessions helping? Are you feeling more confident? And I'm very purposeful in my language there. It's about feeling more confident. We're not asking if you are confident about using the framework for self-evaluation. It's not where we'd expect people to be, but are you feeling more confident about it? So if you can let us know that. And then some of you were beginning to ask what's coming next, and we want to hear from you. What do you need next? Where do you want us to focus our attention straight away? And actually that's been the case in every single session we've had. Coming out really strong is that people want an opportunity to actually explore self-evaluation. And then the final slide is just, we may not have made a suggestion there that is something that you're thinking about, so please do share with us anything that you think would be helpful that we pick up or share with others to pick up. Okay, so yes, thank you very much, everybody, for your engagement with us tonight. We hope you found that valuable.
Thank you very much, everybody. We know that it's eating into your evenings, but we're delighted you all joined us and we're still engaged. So thank you very much indeed.